With the recent news of the upcoming Netflix anime Gamera rebirth, I thought that now would be the perfect time to get into the Gamera series. After all, I've been thinking about it for a while, ever since I heard about how great the Heisei era is, and since all the Gamera films are currently included with Prime Video, I thought I would go ahead and give it a try. So a few days ago, I woke up, turned on the TV, and watched Gamera the Giant Monster for the first time. And I definitely have some thoughts on it that I think are worth sharing. So here are my thoughts and opinions on 1965's Gamera, the Giant Monster. And just a quick note before we get started, I'm going to structure this video differently from my Moth vs. Godzilla video, because I personally felt like my MVG video was very messy and all over the place. So I won't be going into too much detail with the plot, but instead I'll just relay the basic plot points, and I will split this video into more categories than just 4, like last time. Also, I will not give ratings for individual categories, but instead will just give an overall film rating at the end. Finally, I won't be doing a music category for this video, because the only reason I did that in my Mothra vs. Godzilla video was because of how memorable the music was in that film. Alright, now that's all, so let's begin. Gamera the Giant Monster is the first film in the Gamera franchise and Showa era. It was released in November of 1965 and was directed by Noriaki Yuasa, who would go on to direct most of the other Gamera Showa films. It was meant to be the first monster franchise to compete with Toho's Godzilla, and it was actually pretty successful, which sparked many sequels across the ensuing decades. It is generally accepted to be an average but enjoyable kaiju film. But what are my thoughts on it? Because I definitely have some. So, here they are. Spoiler warning, because I will be relaying the basic plot points like I said, and I will actually have it scripted this time, so it won't just be my memory. So, yeah, I would recommend go watching the movie before watching this video if you want to. A large, monstrous turtle from the time of Atlantis named Gamera is awoken from under the Arctic ice by a nuclear explosion. He wreaks havoc on Japan for like 50 minutes, feeding on fire, saving a boy from a falling tower, that sort of weird stuff. With all this chaos he's causing, the military come up with some plans to stop him. So, first they attempt to flip him over onto his shell in order to immobilize him, at like an hour through the movie. But it turns out he can fly by pushing fire out of his holes. That sounded weird. Uh, so, so yeah, he escapes. And so they eventually decide to lead him to shore with fire and then trap him in a rocket, and they send him to Mars in the rocket. Yeah, that went from average to cheesy real fast. Oh yeah, and there was also this boy who loves turtles and wants to protect Gamera because he thinks his pet turtle turned into Gamera, I think. I don't know, I have a bad memory, and barely anything in this movie is very memorable except for the boy who loves Gamera saying at the end that he'll one day try to visit Gamera on Mars. And hate to break it to you, kid, but Mars doesn't have much oxygen, and without oxygen there is no fire. And without fire, Gamera should starve to death, I think at least, so yeah. Anyways, that's only the basic plot stuff and the stuff I could remember, which is all you really need for this review. So here are my thoughts on it. It's definitely not the original Godzilla. There is no metaphor for Hiroshima or Nagasaki. It's just a man in a turtle suit trying to be scary but just coming off as goofy in the process. I had a good time watching Gamera fly around and destroy stuff and eat fire, but the human stuff was just boring. Like there was this confusing subplot that I've already mentioned, or at least it was confusing to me, where this little boy thinks his pet turtle turns into Gamera. At least that's what I think he implies by his dialogue, and he loves Gamera because of it, and tries to tell everyone that Gamera's not evil, he's just destroying things so he can eat fire and survive. And for me, it was just boring and confusing to watch. The main characters also don't do a lot either, except for follow the plot around, and occasionally do something important, like interpreting a sacred Eskimo tablet, or giving their thoughts about what Gamera is and where he came from. So yeah, the human stuff was really boring, but luckily there was a good enough amount of Gamera stuff to keep me entertained, so there was a balance there. In short, Gamera stuff is good, human stuff is bad. That's all I have to say. Now let's move on to the next category, and personally, in my opinion, the worst part of this film. The characters. They are flatter than a pancake. They have no development at all, and they are one of the main reasons that the human plot sucks. Like I said, they don't do anything. I felt like they were just along for the ride instead of running the ride like a good character should. Then again, it's rare for monster movies to have deep human characters, so I'm really not surprised that Gamera didn't deliver on this front very well. I just realized how negative this review is looking so far. Hopefully it doesn't continue that way. The acting was okay. It was watchable. I don't really have anything to really say about it, other than that it was average. Although my opinion on the acting may be hindered by how flat the characters are, now that I think about it. But I'll just say that I realized that I might have been too harsh on Mothra vs. Godzilla's acting after watching this. Next category. The dialogue and delivery, while in Japanese of course, were pretty well done from what I could tell. I liked what I was reading and hearing, so yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say. I felt like I was hearing real people talk, which is not usually how you feel when you're watching a monster movie from the 60s in Japan. In my opinion, it's actually a little better than Mothra vs. Godzilla's here, even though the acting is worse. So yeah, nothing else to say for this one, other than that I was really pleasantly surprised on this front. And luckily, our final and fifth category today will leave us off on a positive note. The special effects in this film were really fun. Gamera's face looked a little goofy, to me at least, but his movements were executed well. The effects of him eating and breathing fire and flying was done really well, and they were some of the best shots in the film. The miniatures were alright too. I didn't really believe I was watching a real monster destroy a real city like I did in the original Godzilla, but it was fun, and that's all that really matters. I really enjoyed the special effects in this film, even if it is a bit stark after watching them only a day or two after the masterful effects of Mothra vs. Godzilla. I know this review has been sort of negative when talking about the plot, characters, acting, etc., but I genuinely enjoyed this film. It might not be great, but I don't care. Movies aren't made to be critiqued to death and torn apart on a lab table, but to be enjoyed. And I enjoyed this one. And I couldn't decide to give it a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10, so I'm giving this maybe a 6.5 out of 10. It was a pretty mediocre foreign kaiju flick, but I definitely enjoyed it. So what are your thoughts on this film? And would you have rated it differently? Tell me in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Here's a quick final note while the end card is rolling. I will not watch the remaining Gamera Showa films for now. Instead, I'll be skipping to the Heisei era because I've heard good things about it. From what I hear, fans say I won't be missing anything. However, I might finish the Showa era after I watch the Heisei era. Alright, that's all I wanted to say, so be ready for my next video within a week or two, maybe a month. Depends on how motivated I am. See ya.